Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and in this video I'm showing you 100 new features in Minecraft The Copper Age, which is version 1.21.9. And actually I'll be showing you 103 new features in this Minecraft update. So if you like Minecraft videos like this one, then please make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Minecraft videos just like this one in the future. But without any further ado, let's get started with our 100 new features in the Copper Age. Starting with the Copper Golem, the only new mob in this update. You spawn it by placing a carved pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern on a copper block, and it summons in both the copper chest and the copper golem. And these copper golems can take items out of the copper chests and sort them into your own chests. People have already made very intricate sorting systems using these new mobs. And iron golems can place a poppy on top of a copper golem. The next few features come in the form of new game rules. Here on Java Edition we now also have the PvP game rule, which you can set to false to turn off player versus player combat. There is the new game rule, allow entering Nether portal using portals. This is set to true by default, but if you set it to false, that means you can't enter the Nether through a Nether portal. And this is the case even in creative mode. As you can see right here, we're standing in the portal, but we're not going through because the game rule is set to false. Then we also have the new game rule, spawn monsters. This determines if monsters are allowed to spawn in your world. By default it is set to true, but you can set it to false if you want. And it does seem quite similar to the game rule, do mob spawning, this one right here. But this turns off mob spawning for every mob, whereas spawn monsters just turns it off for monsters, so hostile mobs. And then the final new game rule in this update is the game rule enable command blocks, which, as its name already suggests, allows you to disable command blocks by setting it to false. If you now try to place down a command block and set in a command here, say hi, if pressed down it says command blocks are not enabled on this server, which means that trying to activate this command block does nothing. And also the command is removed from the command block. Alright, next let's move on to all the new blocks that were added in this update. There's quite a few of them. Mainly because they are all copper blocks. So the first of these are copper bars. These are of course similar to the original iron bars, but have different colors. These are crafted using 6 copper ingots, which yields you 16 copper bars. And these blocks will oxidize over time from regular copper bars to exposed copper bars to weathered copper bars to oxidized copper bars. Unless of course you wax them using a honeycomb, because then you get the waxed versions and they don't oxidize over time. And you can keep them in any of the oxidation states you want. So that's 8 new blocks already in the game. In a similar fashion we have the new copper chains. They're also available in the unoxidized state, exposed, weathered and oxidized states. And of course also all the waxed variants as well. These are all basically just retextures of the original chain block, which has now been renamed to iron chain. And you can see all of the different textures here with the different colors, where this is the original iron chain. For the rest they work exactly the same as regular chains, and they can be crafted just like this using 2 copper nuggets and a copper ingot. We'll get to the copper nuggets later. Then a feature we've already briefly seen before with the copper golems are the new copper chests, another set of 8 new blocks. Comes in the same variants as the chains and the bars, and of course all the other copper features, where also the copper chests have the waxed variants. So these can function like regular chests, or of course they can be used to let the copper golems move items around in your base to your regular chests. All of these have the functionality that they can become double chests, as you can see right here. And if you combine 2 of them, it will always take the form of the least oxidized copper chest. So if we combine this with a waxed oxidized copper chest, it will just become a double exposed copper chest, as you can see right there. You can obtain these by placing a pumpkin on a copper block. That will also give you a copper golem. But if you want, you can also just craft them without getting a copper golem. And that's by placing some copper ingots around a regular chest. That gives you a unoxidized copper chest. Then we have another set of 8 new blocks, and they are the copper golem statues. So they look something like this, and they can spawn in once a copper golem has fully oxidized. So after it fully oxidizes, it will turn into a fully oxidized copper golem statue, where the eyes are turned off and it's just a block. And of course you can scrape off the oxidation layers, and once you do that for all of them and then try to use the axe again on a fully unoxidized copper golem statue, it will turn back into the copper golem mob. As you can see right there, that's a mob, not a block anymore. Furthermore, all of these have 4 different poses, which are the standing pose, the sitting pose, the running pose, and also the star pose. And these are some nice decorative blocks you can place throughout your builds. Then features 38 through 45 come in the form of the new copper lanterns. These are basically a retexture of the regular lantern. And again, there's 8 of them, the waxed versions and all the oxidation stages. You can see that there is a nice animation with these lanterns. They give off a light level of 15 and tops are of course similar to the texture of the chains, so you can nicely combine these with the new copper chain blocks as well. And you craft these using 8 copper nuggets and also a copper torch, which conveniently is the next new feature. This is the copper torch. It has a green flame instead of the regular yellow one. And this means we now have 4 different torches in the game. The regular torch, the soul torch, the copper torch and the redstone torch. So that is very nice. The copper torch has the exact same features as the regular torch. It's just a texture difference. And also of course gives off the copper flame particles. And the copper torch is crafted by adding a copper nugget to the regular torch recipe. It has to be on top though. And you get 4 copper torches for this recipe. Next, there is 7 new variants of the lightning rod. So previously there was only the regular copper lightning rod, but now it can also oxidize over time. And furthermore, it can also be waxed now as well. And they're a nice extra decorative block to start building with. Next is actually a set of 12 new blocks, which are the shelf blocks. And these shelf blocks can be used to store up to 3 stacks of items. So you can place these in any of the 3 slots of the shelf, like this. And we'll put in the entire stack of those items, as you can see. And you can aim at them to take them back out as well, or swap them. And if the shelves are powered by redstone, they become even more interesting, because then you can actually switch your entire hotbar into these shelves in one go. And you can also swap your hotbar in one click. If you would like to know more about these new shelf blocks, I've already made a full video on it, and a link to that video will be in the top right of your screen for you to click on and watch right after this video. Then let's get to some new technical features. There's a new command called fetchprofile, and you can put in either a UUID or a name of a player. So let's put in our own name, just like this. And if we do this, then we can see that there's resolved profile for my name. I can either copy this, which is the full component of my player. And then the second option is give item, and this gives you the head of that player actually. So it's trying to run this command. If we click run command, it has given ourselves our own head. So that's a nice new way of actually obtaining player heads using the fetch profile command. Another new technical feature are chat drafts, which we can see when we try to type in a chat message while we are dying, just like this. Now if we respawn and then open up our chat again, you will see the chat draft. The test there is now in italics. Here we can press backspace to delete the entire draft, or just continue typing or pressing enter to keep the draft. So those are the 2 options for your chat drafts. Next are end flashes. Every 30 seconds in the end, the entire screen will turn purple. So in between those 30 seconds, nothing unusual happens, but every 30 seconds, those flashes happen here in the sky of the end dimension. Let's see if we can catch another one of these. And here we go. The entire end dimension turns a little purple, and then it goes back to normal just afterwards once again. So it is a little bit of an end update after all. Then in Minecraft Java Edition you can now customize the F3 screen, and it's also been reduced a little bit. So this F3 screen can now be customized by holding F3 and pressing F5. That brings you to this menu over here, where you can select which type of information you want to have either in the F3 screen, always on screen, or completely off, neither in the F3 screen and also not always displayed. And so using this, you can, for example, always show your FPS, even if you have F3 turned off, just like this. A very helpful feature if you want to declutter your F3 debug screen on Java Edition. Then let's move into our menus. They've added the Galician language, which is this one over here. New language support in Minecraft. If you go into our controls and then mouse settings, you can now also invert the mouse X. That's a new option. Previously we already had invert mouse Y, but now you can also invert the left-right movement here with X as well. On the control screen, there is now also the sprint window, new option. This is the time window in ticks, where double tapping the forward key activates sprint. So if you set this to 10, then it will still go to sprint if you press the second W 10 ticks later. So then you have a lot of room to actually start sprinting if you double press W. Then you might have already noticed throughout this video, but there are now some new cursors in the game. If you hover over text box, you can now select text just like this. If you hover over any buttons, you will see that the cursor actually turns into the hand option. So singly we can click on these. So that's a nice new feature. But if you don't like it, you can also turn this off by going to Options, Controls, and then Mouse Settings. Feature 74 is that you can now disallow cursor changes, and you can see that now the cursor is always just this same regular one, but here it will switch between different cursor shapes when hovering over certain UI elements. Then the next 16 new features come in the form of retextures of existing items, and they are all the dice in the game. These have now all gotten their very own unique shape, which makes them more easily identifiable by people who are colorblind. And I personally think that these textures are also a whole lot nicer than the ones we had previously. So I see this as an absolute win. Then now whenever you create or load up a new world, there's a new loading screen whenever you do this. So if we click create new world, you'll see this new loading screen and loading bar on that menu. That is also a new feature in the Copper Age. But alright, now let's move on to the new items in this update. And these are all related to copper, which is not very surprising for an update called the Copper Age. The first of these are the 4 new pieces of copper armor. So there's the copper helmet, the copper chestplate, the copper leggings, and the copper boots. And so copper armor has a higher durability than leather armor and gold armor, but a lower durability than iron armor. Furthermore, copper armor has a slightly lower enchantability than iron armor. And as for base protection, the copper armor falls between leather and gold armor. Finally, you can smelt this copper armor down into copper nuggets, which is our next new feature. The copper nugget functions very similar to the iron nugget and the gold nugget, where you need 9 of these nuggets to turn into a single copper ingot, and you can turn a single copper ingot into 9 nuggets. And as I said, you can smelt down the copper equipment down to copper nuggets if you want. And the copper nuggets are used in many different crafting recipes. Some of them I've already shown you in this video. And then along with the new copper armor, there's also copper horse armor, which can be found in the same places as iron horse armor. If you want to know exactly where that is, I've already made a video on that. Link to that is in the top right of your screen. But this is what the copper horse armor looks like. It cannot be crafted, it has an armor value of 4. And it will not oxidize over time. Then the next 5 new features are the copper tools, which are the copper sword, the copper hoe, the copper axe, the copper pickaxe, and the copper shovel. These are more enchantable than diamond tools, but less than iron tools. And they have the exact same damage and attack speed as stone tools, but it will be 5 attack damage and 1.6 attack speed for the sword, and these values for all the other tools you can see here. Furthermore, these cannot mine any blocks that stone pickaxes can't mine. And of course, the crafting recipes are just as you expect them to be for all of these tools. And then finally, our final new feature of Minecraft, the Copper Age, feature 103, brings us right back to the beginning with the Copper Golem spawn egg item, which spawns in, of course, the Copper Golem mob. And so there we go, that's more than 100 new features in Minecraft, the Copper Age. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please subscribe!